So we have to change what we're listening to. Like all those voices from our past, stop today. Like none of that defines you. Anything that happened to you, the trauma, the mishaps, the mistakes, understand that everything you went through, life has prepared you for it. Life is preparing for you. Therefore, there's never a mistake. There's never a failure. It was all wisdom, insights, and an advantage for your future.
Welcome to Built to Scale, where we have real conversations with entrepreneurs just like you about what it takes to build a thriving business without sacrificing your personal life. My name is Craig Severinsen, and I help people make more money working with better clients while also working less. And now I'm sharing it all with you. Let's dive in. What is up, everybody, and welcome to episode 13. I'm really excited because we have Angus Nelson on the show from Evolved Men Coaching, and I first ran into Angus at an event where he spoke, and when I heard him speak, it just gave me goosebumps, and I knew that this content was life-changing, so I wanted to make sure I brought it here to you. He shares so much good stuff, I could not even pack it into a summary. There's just so much. But I want you to look out for at least three things. Number one, he talks about learning lessons from his own life and dark times he's been through and how those lessons help him help more people. Number two, he calls himself a recovering graphic designer, and he tells a story about a time he got busted tweaking something really small, but how that lesson now helps him get more stuff done. And then number three, the powerful way Angus discovers his clients' biggest needs and how he can leverage that to not only help his people more, but also attract more people that he can really make an impact on. So that's the stuff we've got. It's so good. I'm really excited for it. Let's dive in.
Coaching, have we started recording already?
Yeah,
we're live?
Going, man.
Oh,
this is it.
Well, hey, hi, how are you? Well, hello, world. I'm Angus Nelson. I was born at a very young age. I had an identical twin brother. He was my womb mate. It was a womb with a view, which really just meant I basically looked at his backside for 9 months. Outside of that, I'm a men's performance coach. I work with high performance men to help them get the hell out of their own way. I live in Nashville, Tennessee, married, 3 kids, 2 dogs. I consider them pretty bougie. And outside of that, I love to make a difference in the world.
Love it. How did you get into because before you were a men's coach, right? You were working with big companies, right? Is that I'm trying to remember exactly what you were doing.
Yeah. So my background, I ran an association for Fortune 500 brands.
Okay.
It was all based on innovation, digital transformation, taking a look at what came out of the last recession, 08, 09, was this development of this peer-to-peer space, whether it was, Uber, Lyft, Airbnb, TaskRabbit, like all of those were peer-to-peer based type of elements. Then we got into the realm of crowdfunding, crowd lending, now Indiegogo and all the rest came about. All of those were disruptors to what was currently status quo. And we had an association helping these large brands. And when I say large brands, I'm talking Walmart, General Electric, Coca-Cola, PepsiCo, BMW, Ford Motor Companies, like the list goes on. 74 brands during my tenure, 3 years there, over 200 seats filled.
Wow.
And in that concept, you're working with people who have gone to the best schools, they make great money, but their entire job is to piss people off. Because they're telling their own company, here's what we're doing wrong.
Yeah.
Which is challenging the power struggles and everything that's there. And so I'd be on calls with them, trying to convince them of their employability over their employment, because they're always in fear of getting fired. And so a lot of them were really miserable. It was a very performance-based type role. And my background, and we can dive into that, when you're ready, but I came through some really dark seasons of my life where I had some massive failures, and I started to see some of the same patterns going through some of the guys I was serving. And that's what inspired me to say, you know what? I think I have a knack to help. I've got some skills here that can help these men, specifically men. I worked with men and women at the time, but now I work exclusively with men, is to help them navigate a lot of the uncertainties.
So why only men? What drove that decision?
So a couple of reasons. So my background was not the most faithful in my practice marriage. And so one of it was a choice of me just, when you start working with people on emotional levels, sometimes you get that Florence Nightingale effect.
Mm-hmm.
And so the lady's like, oh my God, you've got so much wisdom. You're so special. You're so aware, blah, blah, blah. And that would turn into things like I had no intention in wanting to be.
Mm-hmm.
And so first of all, wisdom number one is, hey, I want to protect my marriage. And so when we first started, our marriage has grown a ton since then. But for me, that was where it kind of started. And I'm a man and I went through all this BS. And so I can speak in a way that most men find really refreshing. And sometimes it's a little in your face, but it's like, guys, we kind of need that. And so I spoke right to men. And I said, this is my jam. So for the last decade, that's been kind of my focus. Whether I was working, my day job or not, I've always been working with men.
That's great. I feel like sometimes we choose, not you, but I talk to entrepreneurs who choose to niche like that, a certain gender, and it's usually more of like a hiding tactic, right? Like, if I, and I see this mostly in women, right? Like, I'm going to work only with women because, then I can be like the whatever mom boss. But the truth is they're hiding from just owning their power and working with whoever's a good fit. And so like, I'm always curious when somebody's narrowed down like that, why they do it. And it sounds like I asked that question a lot of times and I've heard a lot of answers, and yours, I feel like, is the most that I've heard. That's just really like really solid reasons for this is why I do it. How have you seen that, that focus affect your business? Has it helped? Like, how does that focus play into it?
Well, I'll give you two sides. One is, does it hurt my business? So what is the goal of business? If I was just making money, I'll tell you what, if I opened up this women, I could make a crap ton of money tomorrow. Just because all the women, whether wives or girlfriends, see what I do and they're like, when are you going to start doing something for women? Like, I get that, right? Working with guys, first of all, don't necessarily know that they need help. They're so caught up in their own heads and creating their own chaos that they don't recognize the power they're losing in themselves, number one. Number two is, we have a culture of men who don't know how to ask for help. So for number one is they don't have awareness. And number two, even if they do have an awareness, is like, I don't want to show weakness. I want to show like I'm a fraud. I don't want anybody to know that I'm jacked up. By the way, can I cuss on this show?
Sure.
If it's PG, like, I'm cool with that. But just I also like to shoot straight, right? Most guys are walking in perpetual like chaos and don't even recognize it. So they're not aware. They're creating more pain because they don't ask for help. And furthermore, you stack onto that the fact that they haven't been given the skills or tools for a modern day engagement where they're present and aware in a world where women desperately need men to stop being toxic and working out of their weakness, their frailties, and their fears. That's where most men are today. Shooting straight. You're fucked. And men don't recognize that their personal power is not in their performance and their validation for what they do. They don't understand their powers and who they are, and they're built to support. That's how we're made. We're not here to dominate. We're not here even necessarily to lead. Like, we're here to support. And it takes two. It takes both sides. And, you add to that all of the cultural stuff of where our men have gone to war and we didn't have fathers in many respects over the last, 2 generations. And so there was no one to pass on knowledge and wisdom. There was nobody there to show a different way. Second of all, you stack onto that is women who are angry and bitter because the way they've been treated in this patriarchal, context that wasn't fair, wasn't equitable. And as a result, many of the toxic men rose in power in that strive for achievement and out of their weakness and their aspirations driven by deficit. You've got weak men who are in leadership, and then we make that the goal. And it's screwed up. So you think about it, like, if you want to run for office, like nobody wants to run for office because look at the exposure it has on your family and your friends and your background. Like you are like the only people that do that are borderline psychotic narcissists.
Yeah.
Because of the systems that have been built. And I say that male and female both across the board, but unfortunately for most of that time, men were leading it. So, I mean, if you want to get down to brass tacks, like why do I do what I do? Because I'm passionate about helping men to stop being such idiots. The pain you're feeling is absolutely self-imposed, right? And you stack on it, like, let me back up and why I'm an expert at what I do.
Yeah.
Is it okay if I do that?
Yeah, let's do it.
My first business, I was 28 years old. I'm running this arts-based nonprofit for young adults in central Wisconsin. And I did it on the outside for all the right reasons, but later came to learn I had some real ego issues in it. So on the outside, it looked great. We had over 15,000 kids come through our doors. We did concerts and poetry nights, and we did jazz nights, and we did 2 music festivals. One of them was headlined by a band called Train. I lost $72,000 that weekend due to thunder showers.
Oh.
And now I'm living in my basement with my wife, trying to pay all that money back because I felt like I should, good Midwest sensibilities, make sure everybody gets paid.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, I'm getting paid jack. I'm feeling like I have to prove to the world, to my wife, to my board, to the community that I can turn this ship around. I'm working 60, 70, 80-hour work weeks because like most men, when things get tough, we just work harder.
Mm-hmm.
Head down, work hard, don't feel. And I started to suppress all of that pain and that anxiety in porn. So now I'm addicted to naked people, thinking that in that moment, at least I have something I feel I can control.
Mm-hmm.
Out of the guilt and shame of that, because I wasn't raised in that kind of environment. I came from a faith background. Like I'm totally feeling horrible about myself. Yeah. So I do something even better. I go start drinking. And now alcohol is my next vice. And the two combined, now I'm out sleeping around. And in short order, I blew up my business, blew up my marriage, and blew up my sense of self. And I'm watching these patterns repeat themselves through men who are numbing themselves time and time again and don't recognize the damage they're doing by disassociating themselves from their family lives, from their marriages, from their kids. And now you throw that into the environment of everybody being locked down for the last almost 2 years, and you wonder why the divorce rates are skyrocketing.
Yeah.
Because guys don't know how to engage. They don't know how to show up. So this is why I'm super passionate. So I'll shut up for a little bit and let you ask some questions.
No, what you're saying, like it's just like I'm absorbed with it, and I think, it's one of those things I see all the time. I'm not coaching people or talking about like their intimate desires like you are, but we're talking about their business, and they start their business with the ideas that they're going to have more family time. They're going to travel. They're going to do all these things, and it's not, I don't know that it's the stuff you mentioned, like porn and drinking. Like, I don't know because I don't talk about that, but I see them numbing themselves with their business, right? Mm-hmm. Like we start stacking on stuff that doesn't matter. Like, why are you up till 2 a.m. working on a report that the client's not even going to look at, or you're not even going to send, right? Like you're numbing yourself with this busy work, and the thing that you started in order to have more time with your family suddenly is the thing that is driving you away from your family, or is driving you away from the things that you wanted. It happens all the time, and it is such a sad thing.
Because we're operating again out of deficit, right? And we have our own businesses, and most people, especially in the self, entrepreneur. So if you're a solopreneur, you're trying to do all the things, which is the biggest fault in your whole scheme and strategy. Yeah. Like you have strengths and skills that you need to lean into, and all the other stuff, you just need to find somebody that can do it 80% as good as you do. Yeah. That's it. The biggest transformation in my business was when I stopped. I'm a recovering graphic artist. When I did that nonprofit, I played around on Photoshop a lot. My wife would catch me playing with, do you know what gradients are? Where you transfer one color into another, a very slowly gradient. And I'd be tweaking with gradients. And my wife is, what the hell are you doing? And I'm like, oh, I'm working on this thing. She's like, you were working on that 2 hours ago. And I'm like, well, yeah, I'm just trying to, I'm finishing touches. I'm just trying to, like, you're playing with gradients that nobody's ever going to see. And I'm like, well, I'm just trying to, she's like, stop making it perfect and get it out into the world.
Yeah.
Like my own wife would be like, call me on, and we have that kind of a relationship. And so now in our family, we call it gradient. The moment you're trying to make something perfect, gradient, like ship it, get it out the door. So I say that to say, if you're working on that spreadsheet, like I just paid $85 to have a video edited and made beautiful with music and words across the, graphics and stuff. And it cost me $85 on Fiverr. And the guy did amazing. Like I shot it back to him like 3 or 4 times just to make it what it needed to be. $85. That to me would have been hours and hours out of my time. And because we operate in this performance base, we think our business is us.
Yep.
And if the business fails, we fail. We've attached our identity into the performance, and this becomes the trap. Mm-hmm. And then you go home and you feel like you're disconnected from your family because you're operating out of desperation and anxiety, and nobody at home understands the self-applied pressure you've selfishly placed upon yourself. You feel distanced. And then you blame them. So then you run back to your work, which becomes your mistress, because at least there you feel like you have control. Now you're addicted to the work. This is exactly what you just described. Like that's how it all unfolds. It's ridiculous.
Yeah, it's a cycle that keeps repeating itself too, and keeps getting worse and worse and worse as the pressure builds. And, I say that the thing I've said that is very similar to what you were just saying is you're not your business. Your business is its own beast, and you got to make sure that the beast gets what it needs to thrive, and that will free you up so that you can thrive. Right? Yeah. When you separate the I have to do all this stuff, like what you were just saying, and start saying, this is what needs to be done. But you know what? Like someone needs to feed the beast, but that someone doesn't have to be me. Yeah. Someone needs to water the beast, but that person doesn't have to be me. Right? Like the beast needs air, but I don't have to pump air into the room. It's there. Yeah. Right? Like I don't have to do all these things. And when you make that switch in your head, that's when growth can really happen. That's when scale can happen in your business. Yeah, I'm picking up what you're laying down, Angus.
Raising the flag, see who salutes. So in that same way, like, my business, like most of my business has been one-to-one coaching, and that doesn't scale. And so one of the biggest things for me was letting go of a hero complex. Like people can only experience the transformation that I promise if they work with me. And what I discovered was the tools that I have created as a result of the last several years of working with my clients actually take them through a process, which fits in line with my manhood matrix, which is kind of this thing that I've built, this tool and alignment. So what I did was I have created it into a curriculum.
There you go.
To where I'm teaching on a video, and now it's a one-to-many model. I built a funnel to get people in that through these 7 questions they answer, like the 7 most powerful questions to change your life. Like, awesome. Let's get in there, because once you see it, you can't unsee your answers to these questions.
Yeah.
And then I take them into a masterclass that says, this is what those 7 questions represent and how they align within the manhood matrix, so that you have clarity to understand where you're at and how to get free. And then if you want to work with me, it's going to be either through the academy, which is the curriculum, or you can join one of my masterminds. And now suddenly I'm on a one-to-many model, and I can scale this on a significantly bigger level, which increases my time with my family, which is, i.e. what you said, what I got into business for, and I can impact far more people. And so your business, your quality of life, and the caliber of the people around you is built by the systems that are repeatable, so that you can focus on just making money, because revenue solves all problems, or I should say a majority of problems. Right?
Yeah, it makes all problems easier. If it doesn't solve them, it makes the problem easier.
Yeah,
for sure.
Yeah. So then you have your time, right? And you can hire out and you can replicate, and then you can create more standard operating procedures for training people faster and quicker and more efficiently, more effectively. But we're so busy staring at our own navels, trying to hustle our own businesses, that we're not out selling and giving people our conviction and our passion and why we want to deliver them the products and services that they so desperately need, that we can so powerfully deliver.
And I think this is a product of entrepreneurial culture, right? Where we put the focus on, like, there's some majorly broken mindsets just in being an entrepreneur, like the hustle culture, hustle, right?
Mm-hmm.
When the truth is that if you can take a step back, the example I put is like flipping a light switch, right? If the bulb's burnt out, it doesn't matter how hard you flip that switch, that bulb's not coming on.
Yeah.
But if you take a step back and switch the light bulb, you flip it once, there's enough light for everybody, right? So it's like it's making your way through those, and they're self-imposed, like you were saying, those self-imposed traditions or benchmarks that you have to reach, and saying, you know what, like, what moves the needle is not flipping the switch. What moves the needle is, selling something, having that passion, going and speaking, and then taking time with my family, or taking time for myself, and understanding that those things enrich your life and therefore enrich your business. Like, that's so important.
Yeah. And we get it back to front. I'll go put more time at work and that'll help things be better at home. And it's not true. I want to go back to the identity part of that.
Yeah.
Is because we've made our identity the business, we really got it back to front, because if the business goes away, then who am I? Makes me think of a Zoolander. Who am I? For all you, whatever, moving on. So in that same context, you're picking up what I'm putting down. Okay, good. So in that same respect, it's like, how do you change your identity? So, like, one of the principles I tell people is what you hear about, you think about. What you think about, you talk about. What you talk about, you bring about. And so wherever you're at can be revealed by just simply listening to your words. Oh, that always happens to me. Oh, this never happens for me. Oh, of course, I'm such an idiot.
Yeah.
And then you'll like pass it off and you're like, what are you talking about? Oh no, I'm just kidding. I'm just, whatever. No, those words are actually identifying how you see yourself. And what I find in the men that I work with is the challenge are, do I deserve, am I worth, and do I have what it takes? Like, if I'm not worthy and I'm not deserving and I don't have what it takes, I'm going to find a way to sabotage myself. And so what that is the things I've listened to from my past. I've given a story and a message in my own head, created meaning, and then paid that as a truth in my life. And now that's like the data in my computer. So now what comes out is what I put into the computer. Data in, data out. Yeah. So we have to change what we're listening to. Like, all those voices from our past, stop today. Like, none of that defines you. Anything that happened to you, the trauma, the mishaps, the mistakes, understand that everything you went through, life has prepared you for it. Life is preparing for you. Therefore, there's never a mistake. There's never a failure. It was all wisdom, insights, and an advantage for your future.
Yeah. And what's coming up for me is like, you coupled that identity crisis with the broken solution of, if I just work harder, then it's like this complex that just, again, it's a self-repeating cycle. The other thing that came up for me while you're talking, you reminded me of when I was, because I think a lot of this, and you said it in a different way, but it all comes down to scarcity mindset, right? That's a big player in this. And it reminded me of when my last corporate job before I went full time was fundraising for a nonprofit. And when I first started that job, I was talking, there's an older guy that was a consultant, and he was planning out a joint venture with the United Way. And the way they were setting it up was going to kind of hurt us in our fundraising efforts. And I was like, I don't know that we should be doing this, right? Like, I'm the fundraiser for the company. I don't know if this is the right move. And he looked at me and he said, well, Craig, that would be true if you believe there's a finite pie. but I think there's enough pie for everybody.
Mm-hmm.
And that just line right there, that just rocked my worldview. And I just tell myself that all the time, is that there's enough pie for everybody.
Mm-hmm.
And so like when you switch into that abundance mindset, then suddenly it's not all about, oh, I have to prove myself, or, oh, I have to work myself to death. It's about helping spread the love and the wealth and the impact around, and getting other people involved in it.
Oh my God. So I was just on a podcast this morning with another men's coach, and we actually got into this conversation because we see it the same way. It's all abundance. It's like somebody who would work with me is not going to work with this guy, or vice versa, you know?
Uh-huh.
And therefore it doesn't matter. And that scarcity mindset, what people don't recognize is that you are the ceiling to your company. Because how you see you is what you attract, what you create, how you show up. So again, if we go through that whole thing of what you hear about, you think about, talk about, it's like you start taking in different information, you start believing differently about yourself, your identity shifts.
Yeah.
And here's what psychology shows us, is that your brain wants to always validate how you believe about you. It wants equilibrium amongst your experience and your belief. And so, like, I don't know if you remember back in the days when you were dating, if you ever like went through a season where it's like you were dating the same person over and over again, just with a different face. It was right.
Yeah, I remember that.
Yeah. So you were attracting your favorite pain because on some level, if we're really getting true about it, you deserved to be treated that way. That was a belief that you carried. And so if you believe negatively about yourself, you're going to attract someone who's going to treat you negatively, or you're going to take a job, or you'll get a boss, or you're going to put yourself in situations to validate how you see you. Yeah. So if we elevate that, then suddenly the circumstances, the environments, the conversations, the people, they all upgrade to the way you see you. So if I'm the ceiling of my business and I'm upgrading how I believe myself, suddenly revenue, sales numbers, the caliber of people I hire, the quality of the prospects turned into clients changes, because I've now elevated how I see me. Yeah. Because you have to understand this is like your personal improvement equals income improvement.
Yeah.
You can never outperform your sense of self. So if you don't upgrade, your business will never upgrade.
Yeah.
And if you grew up in a family of poverty, if you grew up in a family of scarcity, I've got one of my clients, he grew up in a missionary home. And so everything was scarcity, always. And whenever they got money, they always had a list of things they needed. And so that stuff always got priority, as they just kept buying stuff. So they never had extra cash.
Yeah.
And now he's wondering why his business never has any extra cash. He does the exact same thing.
Yeah.
And so once I identify that, I was like, holy crap, I'm living my life from a 6-year-old. My 6-year-old theory of the world. And this is what we don't understand, is that story that we've told ourselves around all of our belief systems, the identity we've created, is absolutely 100% fundamentally responsible for the experience you are in right now.
Yeah, and I think you can really see that with when you, like, if we put that in a really practical way of thinking about it, if you get into a sales conversation with somebody who is above the level you think you should be working with, you feel uncomfortable. You feel uncomfortable. You say things that you shouldn't say. You blow the sale because the way that you're viewing that person and that client is not in alignment with what you think you should be attracting. And so, you know, I always like to break it down like that, because I think we think of like some of this woo stuff, or like law of attraction stuff, or, you know, it's almost like, oh, well, yeah, some people believe that, but it's like the way you express yourself to the world really does make a difference. And the way you're feeling on the inside gets expressed and attracts from on the outside. And so it's good to break it down so you can see it that way.
Oh, 100%, dude. 100%. And so what I want to ask you, like, what was the one, is there something recently or something like you can remember, like you had one of those oh shit moments, like you walked into something where you didn't feel like people call it imposter syndrome, like where you felt like, oh my gosh, this is like I'm either you're sabotaging or you can feel yourself in that slow motion state of like third person, like what am I doing?
Yeah, I mean, I think in being a business owner, you're signing up for a lifetime of self-improvement, like you really are. So that to me is a cycle. I always say, in my mind, you don't actually defeat your demons. You just learn to recognize their knock quicker. You know what I mean? Like you just learn to recognize what's going on a little bit quicker. So I think that is a pattern that plays out of like understanding and starting to recognize, oh my goodness, I'm self-sabotaging here. Something's going on here. But yeah, like currently I'm leveling up my business and restructuring my offer and adding some more stuff in. And the moment for me was looking at my offer and saying, crap, I'm not practicing what I'm teaching. Like I'm trying to do all the stuff. I tell everyone else to get a team. I'm trying to do all the stuff. You know what I mean? So like that was the moment that I went through recently where it's like, it was recognizing that demon that comes around where it's like, you got to do all the stuff.
Oh, so good. So my coach, Mike Zeller, he's awesome. He has entrenched this into my brain. You are a decider, not a doer. I grew up in central Wisconsin with that good Midwest sensibility, hardworking, like I show up, I deliver, I do what I say, ... And when I recognized, like, you can still have those values, but the hard work part of it is not exchanging my time for money, because you can make way more money with your mind than you can with your time. And that was a big shift for me. And I love what you just said. Thank you for that candor, because the last 3 months, I'm building out this new funnel, I'm telling you, and I'm like finding myself working on it. It's like, nope, hands off. Nope. I'm sending this back to the person that's supposed to be working on it. They're way smarter than me. Let them handle it and trust them, and
it's so dumb. Like, so I'm doing these calls for this offer for my clients. And I'm doing it because I'm like, I'll just do it this time and I'll get someone else to do it next time. And I went and found somebody to do it and I priced it out. You know how much it's going to cost me for like 5 hours of work? It's like less than $100. So like, I have all these huge headaches and all these huge, like, dragging my feet, not wanting to do it because it's work that I shouldn't be doing. And it's going to cost me less than $100 to fix it. But I've just been dragging my feet with it. That's the sort of thing where it's like, we do this to ourselves because we're human. But you've just got to take the step back and you got to say, what is my higher purpose here? Do I own a job or do I own a business? And like spread that love around to other people, right? Invest in invest in the beast.
Yeah. Fiverr is your best friend.
I guess, go ahead.
But I was going to say, little tip on Fiverr. Like if you have a project, hire 3 people for the same job. Because one of them will shine.
Okay.
So what happens is we get a project, we get one person, and maybe they don't, meet quite the standard.
Yeah.
And you're like frustrated. So then you got to get another one. And so that one thing you needed to get done in 4 or 5 days is now taken 3 weeks. Whereas if you just get 3 people right out the gate, it's still cheaper than the headache of, trying to go through all the rest. So just crush it with one person and you're pretty much, and also get a top tier person, pay the extra money for either the number one or the top. And then you're more guaranteed to get a better result.
Yeah. Well, so what are you working on? Like what's on the horizon for you? What's next for you and Evolve Men Coaching?
So like I said, I've built this whole kind of structure to kind of get me out of the way. And my whole ambition is to have this all ready to go before the end of the year, because, ironically, in January, everybody makes these resolutions, and that's when my business usually will have a pop. And so I'm trying to get in front of that to have all these parts and pieces in place so that I have so to work with me now is starting to get a little pricey for people. I'm okay with that because it's my time, it's my business. I make that rule because I really want high caliber, get shit done, I'm ready to rock kind of clients. However, these other price points where people can get engaged haven't existed before.
Yeah.
And so I've been positioning. I just launched a mastermind this past week, which I've done masterminds before, but this is the first one I've done under this structure. And this will be the one that will be the model from now on.
Mm-hmm.
To get that out perfected so that it can rinse and repeat. So I can put that on a quarterly cycle and start a new cohort each time. So systems.
Yeah.
Right. And then the second piece is messaging. I'm finally getting the rhythm that I need in my business so that I have the margin now to look at the data. Data tells you what you need to do. And so when I'm going through some different parts and pieces in my coaching, there's some stuff that they get to fill out, and I'm reading through what the stuff is they're filling out, and it's telling me and informing me of my market even more intimately than I ever knew before.
Love that. I love that.
And so I'm leveraging that so that my messaging going forward continues to get refined to speak to the heartbeat of the people I want to help.
I love that. I don't know, you might be doing this already, but what I found when I have written research like that is if I put it into one Google Doc and try and categorize all the feedback, that's when you start seeing the themes. Yeah. And then when you pull those themes out, man, that's when your messaging can really start to gain traction. That's I'm all about the data. That it's really cool.
Dude, so I'll tell you this. Here's what most men are struggling with, guys in my world. Time management, easy. Money. I want to make more money, right? There's this element of identity. Like I look in the mirror and I'm not necessarily proud of who I see, right? Yeah. Which brings me to confidence. Like those 4 pieces are super important. And then the last piece is really critical and it's expressed in different ways. And this goes back to what I was saying is men don't necessarily know what they need. They don't have necessarily that connection or self-awareness yet. They just know whatever's working at home is not working.
Yeah.
Like there's something about their marriage or their family where they don't feel present. And I'm trying to dial into that language because the stuff that I do with my men works in all of that. Like that, all of those different pieces are a product of identity. And once you can take the pressure off, because most of my guys are like these high performers who have built a business around themselves and all the things we were just talking about, they're the bottleneck. Every answer's got to come through them. Every product decision comes through them. And it's like, why is everybody bothering me? Everybody going. It's like, because you wanted it. You created it this way.
You set it up that way,
right?
Man.
Yeah. You didn't delegate. And you didn't hire. You didn't whatever. So I help men most of all just work through that stuff to give them the margin. And now you can work on you. And when we work on you, the business automatically improves because you just show up differently. You just show up more powerfully. You show up more confidently. And you do the same thing at home too. And finally, your spouse is like, what's happened to you? Like, ooh, what that confidence, that's damn sexy. And your kids are like, get to see dad with a smile on his face, get to see dad with pleasure in his heart. Like when a man shows up and he's present and he's confident, everybody notices. But we're filled with a world where everybody's compensating and they look cool and they look tough and they drive their Lambo and they got their Benz and they got their jet and they got their things, but they're freaking insecure. And it's so obvious because you think the things are going to get you what you want. Well, what if we just short circuit that? Stop going after the thing and go for the thing behind the thing is what you really want. Happiness, fulfillment, satisfaction, joy, happiness. Like, let's start there. So,
all those things that don't cost money and you can get now and could help you get those things later if you want them.
Absolutely.
So those 5 things you just mentioned, did you pull those from research with your clients?
So I have a tool that all my men go through that I've written out about 250 affirmations that are part of a thing I call the 10-minute motivator. And so when my clients come on board with me, I make every single one of them go through this. And they go through its Google spreadsheet. It's hooked up with a tool that then disseminates all that information into a PDF.
Okay.
And now they rehearse that every morning. I tell them to do it in the morning. Not all of them do it in the morning. They'll do it in different times. And it goes through your principles of living, your worldview. It goes through a story, which is your manifesto of how you see this next level you. It has a vision board. It has your routines of how you work your week. And then finally, it has affirmations, which is information attached to emotion. So your affirmation isn't just saying something nice about yourself. It then says how it makes you feel. Like I show up before my employees with confidence and assurance that I know what the heck I'm talking about. It's terrible. I just winged that, but right? Boom. And it makes me feel like I'm in control, that I know what I'm doing, and that I know the path to our success.
Yeah.
Because once you attach emotion with information, it's like sealing it inside of you. And psychology shares us that when we visualize these things over and over again, your brain can't tell the difference between it, whether it actually happened or whether you just, pretended it happened. And this act of visualizing these pieces helps train your brain, like we were talking about before, to consume that as your new identity. And now it seeks to validate that. And it tracks that stuff. So I say all that to say, when they fill out all this Google form stuff, all the data goes into my files. And now I can look and it shares 38% of the guys choose this affirmation.
Interesting.
Bam. I know what your need is.
Yeah.
73% say this affirmation. Guy just got chills. Dude, like this stuff is just showing me where these men are at in such an intimate way. And it confirms and validates like what I'm doing matters.
I love that. And then I love, what just the way that you are able to. So you just went through, I'm looking at this from like a business standpoint at what you're saying and what you went through. You've got such a unique stance and a unique positioning in the marketplace. And you've essentially been able to pull that from your work with your clients and understand this is what they're needing and this is what they're talking about and this is how they're showing up. And it helps you be a better service provider, but it's also helping you, come on interviews like this and stand out from the crowd. It's helping you go, in your marketing messages, say things that other people aren't saying. Yeah. And I think that that is just really cool to turn to your biggest resource, your current clients, and leverage them in that way. I think that's just really cool.
Yeah. Yeah. And it keeps them safe and anonymous. It doesn't hurt them. And it helps me serve them even better, more powerfully. So it helps them. Like this stuff is, we don't understand, like our business has the ability to change the world.
Yeah.
Like what I do, I change a man's life. I change a marriage. I change a kid's future. I change the way the kid will grow up to see a world where fathers' roles have a place of awareness and engagement. Like there's legacy.
Yeah.
I help men create more wealth and possibility for their families. So I see what I do when you hear me come on your show with passion, like fuck all. This is what I was born to do.
Yeah.
And all the other stuff I did like never fulfilled the way what I'm doing today. I'm trying to build a $20 million brand, dude, and create a movement. That's where I'm going with this thing.
I love it. I love it. Love how big your vision is. Love your goal. Love what you're doing. I'm behind it 100%. We got to wrap up. So tell us where, if people want to find more about you, they want to tune into what you're talking about, where do they go?
So the best place, if you want to tune into like my information, just at Angus Nelson on Instagram is the best place to like get into my vibe, right? If you want to check out my website, which hopefully by the time this airs, my new website will be up. If not, please give me grace. AngusNelson.com. And I said this something before, and I'll just throw this out here. Those 7 questions, the 7 most powerful questions to change your life.
Yeah.
Answer those questions, and you can't unsee what you've seen.
Mm-hmm.
You can find that at manhoodmatrix.co. C-O. Because as we said before, somebody stole the com. Bless their heart. manhoodmatrix.co.
Awesome. Love it, Angus. Thanks so much for being here with us. And we'll talk soon.
Thanks so much. This is so much fun, Craig.
Thanks so much for listening. If this episode helped you, share with someone who needs to hear it as well. For more information on how you can work with me and great resources for your business, head over to builttoscalehq.com. Join us next time for Built to Scale. And until then, take some fast, focused, imperfect action. I believe in you. I got your back. We'll talk soon.